I want to talk about the crucifixion today, and because I know that we have a newcomer who's never heard of the Course, I'm just going to do a very brief introduction of the Course in Miracles. It's a book that came into time and space back in the 60s, 1965. A Columbia University professor who was an atheist began to hear a voice. And the voice, what preceded her hearing this voice, was there was a lot of conflict within their department at the Columbia University. I think it was a psychology department. And her colleague, Bill Thetford, were very kind of upset, you know, and looking for a solution. And together, they came together and they said there must be a better way. And they decided together that they were determined to find the better way. And in that, Jesus says, when two or more join together in one decision, miracles happen. And that's what the human condition is that we're all in a condition of there must be a better way. It's everyone knows what I'm speaking of. It's just like whether it's your health or relationships or money or things not working. So each of us has in us a memory of something greater. And it's that memory that's calling you to a new way, a better way. And so she began hearing a voice, and it frightened her very much. And Bill encouraged her to take the voice down. And together over the next 7 years, this message came forth, and it has 3 parts in it. It's a text which has 31 chapters, my man Jesus. And it has a workbook lesson which has 365 lessons, and a manual for teachers, and just, it really is a way to undo every belief in time and space that you have. So my own personal story, and many of you have heard it, so my apologies, you hear it again. I did everything the world said you have to do to be successful, and I was. So I was in New York City, I had a great job as director of marketing, I had lots of money, I had the apartment, I had the boyfriend, I had everything. But inside I was dying. Like, I knew this isn't it. Like, I'm on this track of, it was like a house of cards. Like, I just was always afraid that I was going to lose my job, I was going to lose my relationship. I was constantly just trying to maintain what I had so I wouldn't lose it. And as a result, I drank. So I was alcoholic, I was a cigarette smoker, I was jealous, I was depressed, I was all those things. And the book came into my life in 1992. I didn't understand one word of it. For the next 10 years, I didn't understand one word of it. I didn't know who wrote it. I really thought that this was Helen Schuckman's way of getting her ideas out into the world. So, but there was something in me that was like, who is this I that's speaking in this book? It's written from an I authority. And what I'm like about, and so what happened for me is 10 years I was in a Course in Miracles group, 10 years I was studying the book, 10 years I would have brief miracles and back into my usual patterns. And on July 4th, 2000, I stood in my living room in Brooklyn, and I just said, God, I am yours. I'm yours. It was just this moment where it didn't look like much was happening, but that was the beginning for me of people starting to come into my life, just new experiences. The alcohol went completely away. Cigarette smoking just went away. It all went away. Sickness went away. It all went away. And for the next 10 years, it was still another process of, now there was no sickness or alcohol or cigarettes, but there was still doubt and the uncertainty and the feelings of I'm not good enough, or so those, it's kind of like little lingering energy fields that you're still that are still grabbing you. And in summer 2009, it was just such a frustration because I had seen so many miracles in my life, but I had not experienced the totality of what is being offered in this message. It is the message of Jesus, and Jesus says, greater things will you do than I have done. That we share the same mind. And I wasn't having that experience. I was married at the time, lots of conflict in my marriage. I had no money. Like, I just was struggling still. Still was just feeling like something's not right. I'm not getting something here with this. And the Course says, if something's gone wrong, there's something in my mind that's blocking. Nobody's doing anything. So I was really feeling like something needs to shift in me. And I kept coming upon these sections in the Course that talk about being uncompromising and making a dedication and, you know, being 100%. And I still flip-flop. I still made exceptions in my relationships. I didn't love all the time. I still had grievances. I still thought other people were doing things to me. I still engaged in conflict, even though I said I didn't want it. And so that summer, I said, I'm done with conflict. I'm just done. And what happened was all the conflict you can imagine was brought to my doorstep. Everything. My husband says he's in love with another woman. They were hearing aids. They broke. So I was completely in a world of silence. My car broke. My computer broke. Everything that could possibly break, broke. But it was like, I'm not engaging anymore. And Bill, last night, this is so funny, so Bill and I, just for those of you who are new, we have a nonprofit organization. It's called Teachers of God Foundation. We inspire and support and encourage teachers of the Course who are really wanting to step forth and live this message, carry it to other people. So we do a bunch of online workshops. We have the May retreat. And Bill, a couple days ago, comes into the office, and he's all excited. He's got this box. He goes, I got this great idea. He says, let's bring this to the May retreat. And it's on the front of it, it says, done with it. It's the done with it box. So I'm done with it. I'm done with it. Yep. So you're going to take everything that you're done with and put it in the box. Like, you can do it right now. You really say, I'm done with complaining, I'm done with stories, I'm done with being a victim, I'm done with conflict, I'm done with... So I said to Bill, we can't wait till May. We have to we're sending out a video today to those of you guys that are in the 6-month program. And so when you say you're done with something, the mind is so powerful that it starts to bring you the very thing that you said you're done with. So we were on a call last night, and our friend Max, we're talking about this very topic. He said, yeah, it's kind of like as soon as you say I'm done with pizza, someone shows up with a pizza. It's just how it works. That's how it works. So you begin to really see that you can stay above the battleground. Like, you become devoted to your promise to yourself. So even though conflict was still showing up in my appearance and in my world, that I kept remembering, and it was so scary for me. It was terrifying. Literally, without the hearing aids, it's a world of silence. So it wasn't just like some, I'll be okay. I mean, I was all of a sudden in this very scary, scary place. But I kept remembering, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I didn't have money to put gas in my car. I didn't have my tires. I didn't have a car. Like, I didn't have a computer, which I had been so used to communicating through the internet. There was all these things that were my world fell apart. But I just kept saying, okay, let me happy. Let me be happy. Lesson 100 in the Course says, today we will not let ourselves be sad. Joy heals. The vibration of joy heals everything. And I just kept saying that. And last night Max was saying on the call, it's kind of like that when you make a decision to shift your thinking, to see things differently, you might still be you actually will still be standing in the shit of your own past appearance. Because what often happens is we've been brainwashed by whatever, self-help teachers of this instantaneous, you change your mind and boom, love and roses. And we all know it doesn't work like that. So what you have to do is you have to become disciplined enough to hold that thought, I'm a child of God, I'm the light of the world, God is with me, all these things that are true ideas, while you're still getting the appearance of failing health, no money, like still standing in the appearance and not going there. And the more you can stand above the battleground in the vibration of joy, this will change very quickly. And so that's my story. That's the course. The course is that when you make a decision that you're done with all the old patterns of your life, and that you have a willingness to be shown. So what the course says is that you have a guide. That you were created in love, as love, by God, and that is what you are, I and the Father in me. And that you have a guide, call it whatever you want, the Holy Spirit, Christ, divine love, whatever it is, but there's a part in you that's been guiding you all these years, but you can't hear it when you're listening to the world. When you're listening to your problems, when you're listening to your self-doubt and your self-sabotage. So you make a decision that you're going to start listening. So that's the course, and what Jesus says in here, chapter 6 is a section on the Crucifixion, if anybody wants to read it, and I'm going to read a little bit from it today, but for 10 years, I did not know who this I person was. I would say, who's this I? I am in charge of the process of the atonement. Who's the I speaking? And then he would say, you. He would say, I, and then he would say, you, and all through this book. And I didn't know. I was like, who's the I speaking in here? And who's the you he's talking to? Is this Helen talking to me? Is this some voice talking to Helen? Is this? And when I got to chapter 6.
Just tell me where you are.
That what?
You just let me know where you are.
Chapter 6. It's right the first, it's called The Message of the Crucifixion. And when I got to chapter 6, I knew that this was Jesus Christ from 2,000 years ago. It was the first time that I recognized, because what he said, the I that's speaking in here says, he's talking about when I was with my disciples. And he says the things that the disciples said that he thought they said about him. And then he says things like, I never would have said that. And then he describes what the crucifixion is and what the experience was during the crucifixion. So it's a very exciting little chapter because it's like you were there. So this is the mind of Jesus, and when Jesus says, I did not die, he's speaking about the I am. The Christ self, the spirit of him, never died. Never died. So when you hear in church, he lives. He lives, he lives, Christ Jesus lives today. He never went anywhere. That's why he's here now. He lives in you. He didn't die. So you begin to just, it's a mind-blowing idea. What? Like the mind that was in Jesus 2,000 years ago is in me today. He walks with me, he talks with me. And so what he says in this section, and I'm going to read it, and I don't know if this sentence I'm about to say is in this section, but it says, Teach that I did not die by demonstrating I live in you. So you start to make a decision that you're going to live in this new way. That you are going to live as the love that you are. And so I just would like to read here. The message of the crucifixion. For learning purposes, let us consider the crucifixion again. I did not dwell on it because of the fearful connotations you may associate with it. The only emphasis laid upon it so far, so he's talking about so far in these first 5 chapters, has been that it was not a form of punishment. Nothing, however, can be explained in negative terms only. There is a positive interpretation of the crucifixion that is wholly devoid of fear and therefore wholly benign in what it teaches if it is properly understood. The crucifixion is nothing more than an extreme example. Its value, like the value of any teaching device, lies solely in the kind of learning it facilitates. It can be and has been misunderstood. This is only because the fearful are apt to perceive fearfully. I have already told you that you can always call on me to share my decision. So you see, so I have already told you, you can call on me. So you start calling on Jesus. You start really recognizing that you're not alone, that there is, the helper is with you. The comforter is with you. So you can always call on me to share my decision and thus make it stronger. I have also told you that the crucifixion was the last useless journey the sonship need take, and that it represents release from fear from anyone to anyone who understands it. While I emphasized only the resurrection before, the purpose of the crucifixion and how it actually led to the resurrection was not clarified then. Nevertheless, it has a definite contribution to make to your own life, and if you will consider it without fear, it will help you understand your own role as a teacher. So what I just want to talk about, it's a pretty long section, so I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I encourage you to read it when you have a chance. But I am going to come back to it, but this is very funny. This morning, it's just kind of a backstory. Bill and I yesterday were talking in the dining room, and we were talking about quantum jumping. We were talking about, like, all these, you hear about these guys that are able to appear and reappear, and people see them in both places, and there's these books called The Masters of the Far East, and this is all about Jesus also. And yesterday, we pulled this off the shelf, because we were like, oh yeah, those Masters of the Far East guys, and it's just the bookshelf's right there within reaching distance. So we opened it, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen these books in years, and we just left it there. We didn't talk about it. And then the other night at the Last Supper here at Unity on the River, they did this thing where they had the 12 chairs in a table in the sanctuary, and each chair had a piece of paper with a description of the disciple, and Unity explains each disciple as a chakra, as just some kind of faculty in the body. And we weren't together. He was running the sound in there, and I was in a chair, and we both got Judas. So we both sat down in the same chair at different times, and Judas actually has a totally different interpretation as by Jesus in the Course in Miracles also. That Judas is known as one of Jesus's most devoted disciples. He loved Jesus. He adored him. And that Jesus, how he describes it, is that he made a decision for the crucifixion. He didn't have to be crucified. But he knew that this was going to be the most extreme example he could possibly give to prove it's nothing. He knew. He said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I just imagine him with these 12 disciples. He's with them for 3 years. And I just imagine him thinking, like, this is just too slow. You know, like, I'm going to do something really dramatic here now. And so he asked Judas to go tell the authorities where he was so they could come and take him away. So Judas actually did not betray Jesus, that there was a teaching assignment, and Jesus asked Judas to do this. And so you can imagine Judas's devastation. He's in love with Jesus. You know, it'd be like Shipley asking me to go to the cops, and I love Shipley, you know. And so, but Jesus says, please, like this is my own teaching contribution. And so he took the last useless journey. And what happened this morning, I just got up this morning, I told Bill I'm going to talk about the crucifixion today because it's Good Friday. I picked this book up off the table and I opened it right up, and it just 1:30. Just opened right up to this page, and all I saw, my eye went straight to Calvary experience. And I was like, Calvary experience? Isn't that the crucifixion? He said, yeah. I was like, what? I just opened right up here. So it says here, he's talking about that he made this decision. It says, you can stand forth as you are, the child of the living God. Jesus recognized this, and he could have saved himself the Calvary experience. Had he wished to use his power, his enemies could not have touched him. He saw there was a great spiritual change taking place in his body, and he saw that if this was brought about among those he knew and loved without some outward change, a great many would not recognize the spiritual import, but would still cling to the personal. He knew that he had the power to overcome death, and he wished to show those that he loved that they had the same power. So he chose the Calvary way, the way they could see, and seeing they would believe. He also wished to show that he had so perfected his body that should his enemies take his life as they looked upon life and place his body in the tomb and roll a great stone thereon, the last limitation that man could put upon it, still he, the true self, could roll away the stone and raise his real or spiritual body above all mortal limitations. Jesus could have taken his body and disappeared, but he chose to show that when the spiritual body is developed, no material accident or condition can destroy it, even the taking of a life by another. So the crucifixion now becomes like a positive thing. Like you can really see it, that Jesus gave the greatest example of what it is to have the worst assault one can possibly give to a human being. And he says this in here. He says it, I elected, this is on the bottom of page 93, it's on the second page of all of this. It says, I elected for your sake and mine to demonstrate that the most outrageous assault, as judged by the ego, does not matter. As the world judges these things, but not as God knows them, I was betrayed, abandoned, beaten, torn, and finally killed. I was clear that this was only because of the projection of others onto me, since I had not harmed anyone and had healed many. We are still equal as learners, although we do not need to have equal experiences. I love this. It says, the Holy Spirit is glad when you can learn from mine and be reawakened by them. That is the only purpose, and that is the only way I can be perceived as the way, the truth, and the life. When you hear only one voice, you are never called on to sacrifice. So he's saying is that this was, you don't have to be crucified, and yet you still continue to crucify yourself. You still act as if you're being crucified. So Jesus, as a teacher, is inviting us to let that go. So he gives the example of being on the cross, and in the Bible, his eyes are always looking up. He's always looking away from the appearance of things. So that he had already made a decision that his mind is going to be completely focused on God. And he says, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. And like the Course in miracles is there's so many quantum things in there that I love. Like if anybody's looked at them, like this idea of the cross, you know, it's this vertical idea. And then with time and space is the horizontal. So what the Course is saying is that you think you live in a horizontal world where you have a beginning, you are born, and there's other people born before you, and that you have an ending. And this is your timeline, and that you're here. And from this moment to the past, there's things you can remember, put them on a timeline. And that in this moment, you also think you have a future. You know, do this, this, and this, and this. And within this frame, you're trapped. You're totally trapped in everything that goes along with the time and space reality. The Course says is that there's a place that's called the holy instant, which is right now. And it's where the horizontal meets the vertical, where you stop. You simply stop. And this is where the place of the resurrection happens. It's right in that center. And we all have had that experience in some way. It's when you quiet your mind, you allow yourself to be still. It's like that breath. It's like, okay. And you just allow your mind to focus on God. You know, I think about the word concentration. You know, it's like concentric. It's a circle. So concentration is when you're bringing all the energies back to the center. And that's what Jesus did. He concentrated all his thought power on God. And in that, his whole body disrupted into light. And you know, we're still talking about him 2,000 years later. And that's how you're going to see a healing in your life. When you are concentrating only on what is true. So on a practical level with the Course, I love teaching it. I love teaching this message because I've seen how it works in my life, is that until I saw that my dedication had to be to bring all the energies back to the center. I take total responsibility. It's like energies are just flying all over the place. You did this to me, and you owe me this, and you did this, and why are you wearing that, and what is this, and you did this, and I have this bill to pay, and I have to be here on this, and I have so much to do, and you know, like it's just the energies are all flying. And when the energies are flying, you're going to get the effects of energy flying. So you're going to, so when people say, you know, I have this thing happening to me, I know you do. I know you do. Because you're always going to get the effects of your own thinking. So when your thinking is chaotic, your world's going to look chaotic. And when you're done with that, you will make a decision to bring it all back, concentric, concentrated. And then you're going to get the effects of all the laws of God now. Like from whatever place you're living at. And so that's, to me, that's like such a good example, the cross, because it really is a reminder, like, okay, I'm just going to live in this vertical place now. And I'm going to carry the love of God with me wherever I go. That I am a blessing. I am only that. There is no sometimes like this. I'm just going to finish up, and then I'm going to open it up for sharing. This the message of the crucifixion. This is what this section is called. And he says, I will with God that none of his sons should suffer. This is on 94, if you're in this foundation book. He says, the crucifixion cannot be shared because it is a symbol of projection, but the resurrection is a symbol of sharing because the reawakening of every son of God is necessary to enable the sonship to know its wholeness. Only this is knowledge. The message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear teach only love, for that is what you are. So, you know, Bill and I right now, we're working with a group of people about how to work with others. It's a small little group that we're working with, and we're inviting everyone to go live this message now. It's what we do here on Friday. But the only way you're gonna, and what everyone says, and they're not saying it anymore, but when they first started with us, I'm not ready. I'm just not ready. It's like, yeah, you are, because you're not healing. God's the one that does the healing. All power is of God. You do nothing. That's why you can relax. I don't know how to heal. I don't know what to say. But if I can just come into a situation and be still, knowing that the one who does know how to heal is with me and there's nothing to heal, now it's just this experience of like, wow. Like the power of joining with another is immense. Like you start to really feel like what it is to just not have to do anything. And then you start to really see that miracles are occurring. So it says, oh hey, I didn't think you were coming. Perfect. So this is, I'm just going to end with this, because this is the place where like you have to make a decision. If you want to see a change in your life, you have to make a decision. It's not going to be done for you. So everyone's always waiting for the circumstances in their life to change, and then you'll change. But I'm just here to remind you that the circumstances are coming from you. So you have to change the cause first within you, and then the external will change. So what he's saying in here, he's talking about the apostles and the disciples, and if you interpret the crucifixion in any other way, teach only love, for that is what you are. So he was using that as a demonstration. He was teaching love up on the cross. He didn't look down and say, you bastards. Like he was teaching only love up there. He was just the total defenselessness and just gratitude, and he was teaching what he knew himself to be. And if you are using it as a weapon for assault rather than as a call for peace for which it was intended, the apostles often misunderstood it, and for the same reason that anyone understands it, their own imperfect love made them invulnerable to projection. So it says in the Bible, perfect love casts out all fear. So for anyone who's experiencing sickness, depression, problems, perfect love will solve it. It'll dissolve it. Love is like a chemical. And you begin to see that any area where you're getting an appearance of something not working is a place where there is imperfect love. There's some, and this is where you're just going to get honest with yourself. You're really going to look and see, yeah, there is that one person who I think should have done something different.